Fantastic. So you should just see that red light or that notification just to let you know that we are now recording the session. Welcome to everybody that is joining us either live or watching this later. This is the 2025-2026 CSC Mentoring Programme introductory webinar for doctoral mentees and your mentors. So thank you everybody for participating in the programme. We're really excited to be working with you over the next year. In terms of this session, we're just going to cover some core components of the programme. Some of this you will be familiar with if you've had a look through the handbooks and other information, or if you've been on the programme previously, either as a mentee or as a mentor. So I'm just going to give a quick introduction to the programme, how it works in terms of the cycles and the different stages. I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of setting goals to ensure that you have a really productive mentoring relationship and you get the most out of the programme that you can. And then we'll also look at some of the resources and policies that are available to you in the handbooks, but also that you should just generally be aware of, both whilst you're in the CSC community generally, but also some specific details related to your participation in the mentoring programme. And then finally, there will be a Q&A session. So for those of you that are joining us live, please do use the chat box to share any questions that you have. And there will be a Q&A at the end, which will not be recorded. And for anyone watching this video later, please do get in touch with us via email if you have any questions about the content that we cover or your mentoring partnership generally. So, quick introduction to the programme. The CSC Mentoring Programme has been running since 2019, and over 1,200 Commonwealth scholars and alumni have participated over the years, and that's either as a mentee, as a mentor, or actually as a mentee and a mentor for some who have actually grown through the programme and who are now alumni. The programme aims to connect Commonwealth scholars and alumni in a one-to-one pairing, and that's really important in terms of ensuring that you develop a really strong relationship with your mentor and your mentee, and that you have a kind of dedicated contact to support you during your studies or during your professional and personal development, whichever reasons have brought you to the programme. For our mentors, this is an opportunity for you to share your expertise, your advice and your experiences with a scholar and really support them throughout their studies and provide guidance on studying and living in the UK, and particularly those who are facing quite rigorous academic programmes or quite demanding academic programmes as well. It's really an opportunity for both mentors and mentees to share knowledge and enhance their skills development. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different areas that we know our mentoring pairs like to provide and ask for support and guidance in. There's also a really important piece within the CSC's mentoring programme in terms of increasing understanding of how to achieve development post-scholarship. That is the aim of Commonwealth scholarships. It's to give you the skills and knowledge to really fulfil your development impact goals as you've outlined in your CSC application form. And the best way to learn how to do that is actually through our alumni network and people that have done precisely that and can provide you with advice, guidance, but also networks and contacts to really support you in achieving your development impact goals. For our mentors and also for our mentees, it's another great way to start to develop your mentoring and other soft skills, which are really important for professional progression. Things such as leadership, but also how you learn to communicate people. These are all really important skills and integral to both getting the most out of the programme, but that personal and professional development that I've just mentioned. So just a little bit of background about your pairings. What is unique about the CSC's mentoring programme is that it's about the development impact, the application of your studies to achieving development impact. And that's what we look for when we come to pair. So it's a little bit different to what you might see or expect from other mentoring programmes where you could be matched based on an exact subject match or an exact kind of career or experience match. The CSC programme hasn't necessarily looked at that as the core focus. In terms of how you have been paired, we've looked at the information you gave in your application forms about your pairing preference, whether or not you'd prefer to be paired with somebody from the same country or region as you, or whether or not actually you're happy to be paired with anyone across the Commonwealth within the CSC's alumni network. And just as a piece of information, most of our pairs actually opt to be paired with somebody not from the same region or country as themselves. So it's a really great opportunity to learn about how development is working in another country, and also really kind of diversify your networks and your cultural exposure as well through the programme and through your mentor or your mentee. We do take into consideration subject area and field of study. So you might not have a direct match with your mentor or mentee, but you should be able to see that you're working roughly in the same topic or field or study area. So you should be able to see those connections. We also look at the keywords that you provided in your application form, which is where we start to understand a little bit more about what you feel are the most important parts of your study. And this again helps us match to people who perhaps wouldn't necessarily be an immediate match, but we can see that there is great overlap in terms of experience and expertise to support the pairings. We also have a look at the motivations for becoming a mentee or a mentor. For some people, it's very specific around building networks or collaborations. For others, it's about some of the more perhaps personal experiences that will happen, such as adapting to living and studying the UK, especially for anybody who is studying with dependents and continuing studying alongside caring responsibilities. So for some people, that's a really important thing that they would like a mentor who's had a similar experience and can provide guidance on. So these are other things that we have a look at within the applications. And then also finally, mentors' professional experience. If we're seeing connections around kind of the career developments of both our mentees and mentors to try and get the best match possible. So I hope everybody has already been in contact with their mentor, that their mentor has reached out to them. If not, I'll talk about that in a couple of slides' time, but I'm hoping that everyone is seeing now why they've been matched with their mentee or mentor, and that it's something that can be really positive over the coming months. So let's talk a little bit more about how the programme works for our doctoral pairings. So as already mentioned, it's a one-to-one pairing. So this is a dedicated pairing between a mentee and a mentor. And it's really important to note that this is a two-way pairing as well. So you should both be setting goals. You should both come with ideas of what you want to get out of the programme, and you should be identifying ways that you can learn and develop from each other. This is not simply a programme where the mentor is the one leading and developing what the mentee gets out of it. It should be very mutual and very co-designed to ensure, again, that you build a really positive relationship and that you can get the most out of the opportunity. The pairing is year long, so it's from December 2025 to December 2026. So depending on when you are commencing your doctoral studies, it may be covering a first year and a bit of a second year, or it might not be a sort of quite a neat fit in terms of the year cycles of your doctoral studies. But hopefully that is providing a little bit of continuity as you progress through your doctoral studies by having that mentor with you at some of those transitional phases. We advise and request a minimum time commitment of 2 hours every month. When on paper, that sounds like a lot, but in actuality, when you come to meet, 2 hours disappears very, very quickly, particularly if you choose to take it in smaller bite-sized sessions, which you are more than welcome to do. But we do advise anything less than 2 hours, and you're not getting the contact time from each other, and you're not having the types of detailed discussion that will be fruitful for both mentees and mentors. And then finally, apologies, I've just realised the slide says master's pairings, and that should say doctoral. It's also about really identifying the mentoring support to develop the relevant skills for your doctoral studies as well. So we know for some of you who are perhaps studying in the sciences or technology-based doctoral studies, this could be support around new equipment or technical expertise that you could be learning. And whilst you'll be getting that from your supervisors and those that you are studying and working with, your mentor is also potentially another source of support to really identify what you need to really progress well in your doctoral studies. So in terms of areas of support, some of the key areas that we see mentors and mentees both requesting and benefiting from through the programme are academic support, professional and social support. And you can see in the graph on the side there that actually academic support only slightly outweighs some of those other areas. So it's a really balanced programme in terms of what we know pairs want and expect from it and actually what they get out of the programme as well. Some of the key things that we do know in particular that have formed a really important part of the pairings is communicating research to a wider audience. Working with your mentor, you will start to understand how you need to communicate your research. For some of you, your mentor will not be a direct match to your specific area of study. So you have to learn how to communicate with them to get the most out of the pairing. And that's a really important skill generally. And again, this is another person, another resource that you can learn from to support that. Always think about your development impact. Your mentor is actually a really good person to keep reminding you about what you wrote in your scholarship application. It's really easy during your studies to get lost in what you're doing and your research, and your mentor is a good person to come back and say, but how is this relevant to your development impact goals? How can you apply this? Are you perhaps moving too far away from that? Or are you perhaps discovering that your development impact goal needs revising now that you're on your studies? So again, mentors provide a really good reminder of the scholarship, but also someone else to kind of help challenge your thinking and to really help with some of that critical thinking. There's also a point here around your professional skills, developing those alongside your studies across that 3-year period. Again, it's really important to embrace all the different aspects of being a researcher, and actually research is only one component of it. There is so much more that you can be developing whilst you're completing your studies, and there's so much that your mentor can be advising you on around some of those other opportunities and skills as well. So just to cover a little bit on the roles and responsibilities, I won't go into too much detail on these slides because you should be familiar with this information when applying to the programme and also on being accepted. But it's to support a new scholar in developing the appropriate skills and knowledge they need to ensure that their studies are relevant to their development impact goals, but also that they understand how to apply them post-scholarship as well. For mentors, this is a really prime opportunity to share your own Commonwealth scholarship experience. Some mentors did not complete their PhDs whilst a Commonwealth scholar. They will have completed a fellowship or a master's scholarship potentially, but again, they understand what it's like to be a Commonwealth scholar and some of the demands that come with that programme. And they can also draw on their wider PhD experience and career development as well. As already mentioned, there's a focus on guidance about implementing learning and skills post-scholarship. So taking your research and understanding, how does this get applied? What's the step change potential of your research following a publication or following completion of your PhD? There's opportunities for both mentees and mentors to develop their mentoring and professional skills, as I've already mentioned. It's thinking about those soft skills that you'll be developing that will put you in a really competitive, give you a really competitive edge when coming to apply for jobs, but also generally in how you are perceived and how you're able to work with others as you progress. And finally, we do encourage everyone on the programme to keep reminding each other that you are here because you are engaged in the CSC's community. And there's lots of advantages to continuing to stay engaged with the CSC. So it's just a bit of a reminder that we're all part of that really inclusive and open community, and it's such a wonderful place to be. In terms of mentees, again, it's a little bit of a mirror in terms of the roles and responsibilities of mentors. One of the things in particular that we do flag, and that I have mentioned on the other slides, is that it's not just about the academic skills development. There's also information that you can request and share around adjusting and living in the UK. It's really important to sort of understand some of those elements and to feel that you can raise those with your mentor. For mentors that potentially only had a short period of studying in the UK, there's still a lot of guidance that you can provide around balancing work life around the demands of UK academic cultures and systems as well. So all advice and guidance is relevant, and everyone should feel really safe and secure to ask for things that are not necessarily related to your academic development. It's about really building the whole kind of ecosystem that you need to really thrive in during your studies. We also really encourage that you share your successes and your achievements and your wins with each other. Part of the pairing is the beauty of having somebody who is almost a dedicated cheerleader for you throughout the next year. And that applies to both mentors and mentees. So do share your research wins, do share what you're doing, because it's really important, and it also helps to just build the trust and the relationship throughout the programme. So I've mentioned a couple of times that it is a year-long programme from December 2025 to December 2026. We break the programme into 5 stages, and throughout these stages you will receive updates and emails from the CSC letting you know the stages that you're moving into, what you should be focusing on throughout those stages as well. So we will keep in touch with you throughout the programme so that you can really move through the pairing. So don't worry about having to remember everything on these slides and that I'm about to share, because we will be with you throughout the cycle providing guidance and direction. And again, we're always there for any queries that you have that can't be answered in any of the resources that we've shared. So let's just have a quick look at the 5 stages. So we're currently in stage 1, which is focused on building rapport. It's about building the foundations of your pairing relationship. And that's running from now, December, until January. And that's consisting of your session today, the induction webinar, and anyone that is watching this later. We ask that your first introductions, that mentors have reached out to your mentees by the 7th of December. It's really important that mentors provide that first contact as soon as possible, and that mentees respond to mentors quickly. This is because we don't want you to lose time at this critical stage of building your relationships, but also because if this stage is missed, we do have to terminate pairings because there's not enough time left on the programme to get the most out of it. So it's really important that if you're a mentor on the call or watching this later and you haven't yet reached out to your mentee, please do it by the 7th of December. And if for any reason that's not possible, please let us know so that we can look into this for you. Mentees, if you're thinking, I still haven't heard from my mentor, I advise in the first instance that you check your spam. Sometimes things get lost in spam filters, and if you still don't feel that your mentor has reached out to you, please let us know so that we can look into it as well. In terms of this getting to know you period, it's really important that you use this time to talk a little bit more about yourself. Introduce yourself, your work, your studies, your motivations for being on the programme, your motivations for being a Commonwealth scholar, all of these things. It's just really important to just start to lay these foundations. You should look at the development goals. If you're a mentee, what are your development goals in your application form and how are they relevant to the studies that you are commencing? If you're a mentor, have you achieved your development goals? How have they changed over the time since you were a scholar? And is there anything significant in that? Or what are your next set of development goals if you've already achieved some of the things that you hope to during your career and your post-scholarship period? It's also really important to use this time to establish some expectations. Things in particular around this that you will want to confirm is the mode and the frequency of communication. How is it best that you contact one another? Is it a mixture of emails followed by set times where you have a Zoom call or something like that? Do you need to be aware of each other's time zones so that you can ensure that when you send emails or when you schedule meetings, you're being respectful and sensitive to other demands that might be on someone's time? A core expectation is the maintaining of confidentiality. What is discussed between a mentee and a mentor is confidential between the two of you. There is only one exception, and that is our duty to report policy. And that is where if you have any concerns about the welfare of your mentee or mentor or those around them that you feel has not been reported to the CSC, then you are allowed to break confidentiality in that instance only and notify us of your concerns. We also encourage you, as part of your expectations, to communicate your pronouns. Please don't assume pronouns. Please always ensure that you've checked this information. Equally, some people prefer formal titles, other people prefer very casual, going by first name, or perhaps an alternative name as well. So again, don't assume that the name given in the email or any pronouns that have been shared are correct. Always check that information. And then finally, please also talk to each other about how you like to communicate. It's really important to understand that everybody communicates differently. Everyone receives information and understands information differently. And at the outset of your mentoring pairing, that's a really integral point at which to learn how are you best communicating with somebody. For example, for myself, I need things to be very direct. Sometimes if it's long information, I need it to be in bullet points. I can't read coloured text. So these would be the things that I communicate to somebody about how I like to receive information. And then they can ensure that when they're sending things to me, that they're helping me understand and process. So again, have these conversations, be very open, and start to build that trust in one another, because it will pay out in the longer term of the programme. We will send out a check-in survey by the 14th of December, and that is 3 or 4 questions, and it just asks whether or not you have been in contact with your mentee or mentor, and that at this stage you feel that the pairing will be productive and useful, and if you have any queries. But again, if you are concerned about your pairing, please don't wait to the survey. Please just get in touch with us if you do have queries. We also advise that right from the outset of the programme, you start to use the mentoring log table. And there is a template available on the resources webpage. It's just helpful to take notes throughout all of your meetings, particularly if you're setting action points for one another. It's something that you can go back to when you next meet and check in and make sure that you are moving forward in your pairing. And if actually you're having to go back over information, you maybe need to question why that's the case. Are you not communicating effectively with one another? Are perhaps some of the goals you've set not appropriate? Did you not design them in perhaps the best way possible? So again, your mentoring log template plays a really core role in ensuring that your pairing is moving forward. So I mentioned setting goals just now, and then also right at the start of the presentation. Once you've gone through getting to know one another and building that foundation of your relationship, stage 2, which is February to March, is about setting goals for the programme. And we recommend setting 3 to 5 short and long-term goals. The reason for this is to ensure that both mentees and mentors have a really clear focus for the programme. These are things that you are aiming towards. These are clear and direct goals that you know how you will each support each other to achieve, and also what is required to achieve them. And you should work together to ensure that the goals that you set are SMART. And that is, I think most people on the call will be familiar with this, but that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It's really easy to kind of skip thinking about goals in this detail, but we do find that pairs that really put the time in between February and March to set SMART goals actually achieve more out of the programme than those who perhaps skip this stage or put together very general goals, because it means that you're not focused when you're meeting, and it's not clear what your expectations of each other are in terms of achieving those goals. We recommend a mix of short and long. It's always good to have some quick wins in the programme, and also sometimes your short goals need to be achieved in order to achieve that longer term goal as well. So do think about what the full 12 months of the programme look like in terms of the goal setting. Just to reiterate, it is a two-way learning process, so we expect mentors and mentees to set goals. And again, please do work with each other to do that. Everyone is on the programme for different reasons, and therefore you should be setting goals to get the most out of the programme and what you wanted to as well. And in the handbooks, you can find some examples of goals if you're not sure or you're not quite sure how to use that SMART framework. So by stage 3, we expect you to feel like you're making progress, that you are fully engaged in the programme. You know each other, you've built a really strong bond. You've got your goals, so you know why you're coming to the programme, why you're having your meetings, you know how to communicate with one another, and you know when to communicate with one another. So by April to June, you're really in the programme and you're really committed to both each other and achieving those goals for each other as well. This is also a good point to review and evaluate the goals that you have achieved and perhaps any that are remaining until the end of the programme. We do know that sometimes goals aren't relevant anymore, or perhaps we've actually achieved them but in a different way. So it's a good point to ensure that the goals that you have remaining are still relevant, and if they're not, talk to each other about why that's the case and if there are any new or emerging goals that you want to put into the programme now. So this is really about being flexible, but also self-reflective, really important skills for anybody to have. And the programme, again, this stage really helps you to sort of harness that and have some support in building that self-reflective skill. If you do find by April to June that actually you don't feel like you're making progress, that you may be a little bit lost in the programme, that perhaps your goals aren't panning out, please do talk to one another about that. But if you also would like some further guidance or support, you can always get in touch with Eva, and she can provide some more advice as well, because it's not unusual for some pairs to get to this stage and get a little bit lost in the programme. So if that does happen to you, it's perfectly normal. Try and work through it with your mentee or mentor, and you can always come to us as well. So stage 4, July to September, discussing future plans. So this is where you start to think about what post-mentoring programme could look like. So it's really starting to think about, for our mentees, what the rest of your doctoral programme looks like, what perhaps are the demands that are coming up, what are potentially some of the emerging opportunities that you can see on the horizon, and what can your mentor help you with at this stage so that you are prepared and you're resilient for some of those things. So this is really about looking to what happens after the programme and how you use the remaining time in the best way. And for mentors, this is also your opportunity to kind of really provide guidance and to reflect on your own sort of feelings around the similar stage that your mentee is at on their PhD cycle, but also, again, to think about how you can get some of the most out of the programme. If it is a busy period for anybody at this point, it's really important, whilst you're looking at what the future plans are and whilst the time on the programme is going to disappear quite quickly, it's important that you communicate if perhaps there are other time commitments that mean that you need to sort of change your engagement on the programme as well. And then finally, we come to stage 5, October to December, which is winding down and moving on. This is a point where we know pairs are kind of completing some of those last goals. They're trying to work out what it is that they would really like their mentor to help prepare them for the future. And also mentors, this is a point where you possibly want to start to test the independence of your mentee, seeing that critical thinking and all of that support you've given really show that independent, self-reflective learner. And it's a good point to just start to move away and maybe start to change the relationship of your mentoring pairing as well. We do encourage this to also be a point where you think again about that wider researcher importance in tackling some of the development challenges that we see across the world. So again, promoting research for impact. So again, this might be a point to talk about how you would see doctoral research and the researcher sort of changing that role and being less academic focused and maybe more practitioner and researcher focused as well. So this is a point again just to start reiterating that or raising some conversations around it, and particularly for doctoral mentees as you really start to get into your programme. Whilst the formal programme will end in December 2026, we really encourage our pairs to continue to stay connected. It's a lifelong peer programme, really, and we know that a number of our pairs have continued to stay in contact. The mentoring relationship has changed is very much a peer relationship, and we know that a lot of pairs throughout the period on the programme have identified ways that they can collaborate on research or work projects or publications, and that actually post-programme that starts to become something that they can pursue in more detail. We know our pairs continue to keep each other updated, whether that is formally via email or meetings, or whether it's by kind of really celebrating each other's successes on LinkedIn or other social platforms. Again, you are each other's cheerleaders for life. You're there to support one another. And we know that that continues post-programme because you've built such a strong relationship with somebody and because you've invested in that person and their success and their development. And that's both mentors and mentees. We also know for those who wish to that there have been opportunities to meet in person when travelling to conferences. That's been an opportunity, or potentially travelling for work, or if you actually live in the same country as well. So again, there are always opportunities to keep in touch, and we encourage you, where you feel that it's appropriate and you've had a really positive bond, that you do stay connected post-programme, because there are advantages to it. I'll just touch on some of the monitoring and evaluation that takes place throughout the programme. So as mentioned, you have your first check-in in December, and this is to check that our pairs are in contact with one another, and that so far that stage has been completed. So you will receive that first check-in survey by 14th of December. In March, there will be a second check-in survey, and this is to check that you have set your goals and that at this stage you are still happy with the pairing that you have, and you can see why you've been paired and that actually it's going to be a really productive relationship for you both. In January 2027, so post-programme, at the end of the programme, you will be invited to take part in an end of programme survey, and that will be to reflect on what you got out of the mentoring programme, the successes of it, whether or not it fulfilled your motivations and your expectations of participating, and also any intentions that you have to stay connected with your mentee or your mentor. If you do complete that survey, you will also receive your certificate of participation in the programme. So again, it's really important that you feed back to us so that we can continue to develop the programme. And it's also your way of ensuring that for future cohorts, any changes that we can make are implemented. And then finally, in June 2027, you will receive a post 6-month survey. And the post 6-month survey is there to understand what some of the perhaps longer term impacts of the programme could be. This is where we understand whether or not you have stayed connected with your mentee or mentor. Also, whether or not, now that for those of you who are further into your studies, whether or not you're starting to see some of that advice in that intensive year with your mentor starting to really pay out in terms of your studies or your development professionally and as a researcher. And for mentors, again, we'll start to understand whether or not that contact with somebody that you otherwise would never have met, your exposure to their research and how they think and approach things, whether or not that has also started to impact and have an important role in your own development as well. So, resources. We have a number of resources, which I hope those on the call and watching later, I hope you have had a chance to read through some of these and are familiar with what's on these slides. On the CSC website, on your resources webpage, you'll find the handbooks for mentees and mentors. So please do have a look at those if you've not already. You can also find that mentoring log table that I mentioned, and there's also a SMART goals log as well, which again helps you outline what those SMART goals are and breaks it down into the SMART format as well. So again, it's another way of just keeping everything recorded. You can share information with one another through those templates and through those logs, so you always know exactly what you've committed to and you can come back to it time and again. Within the handbooks, throughout the pages and also at the end of the handbooks, you'll find some resources. And throughout the handbook and the stages, we do reference particular resources and skills that you might want to be focusing on in those different periods of the mentoring programme. And again, we email you throughout the year and we sort of signpost those as well. So don't worry about really retaining that information right now. So within the handbook, we've got some top tips. They've actually been suggested and submitted by previous mentees and mentors. So they've come from your mentoring community around how to get the most out of the programme and have a really productive and successful pairing. There's also some icebreaker suggestions for those who I think most people often find kind of getting to know each other, kind of emailing somebody what feels like very cold to introduce yourself. It can be quite hard to do that. So we do have some icebreaker suggestions in there just to help ease that process. There's also some information around effective communication, building that skill, and particularly, again, make sure you've talked to each other about how you like to communicate, how you need to receive and process information so you can really work well together. It's also just a fantastic thing to be able to do generally, is understand how different people need to receive and understand information and how you learn to do that with all the people that you meet. There's also some information around receiving constructive feedback. Again, a really important skill around that separation of feedback is, constructive feedback is not personal, it's about the work or it's about the approach. But there are ways that you can receive that feedback in the best way possible. And there's also ways that you can give that feedback in the best way possible. So we do provide some guidance around that. I've already mentioned around the self-reflective learner. It says encouraging your mentee to be self-reflective, but I think this applies to mentors as well. A really important skill to constantly be going back to your mentoring log table, checking in, and kind of reflecting back on how you developed through the programme, but also your studies as well. And then finally, we do have some guidance around making the most of your final weeks. We encourage everybody to keep in touch. You can see the email address there on the slide. So that is just information around keeping in touch with the CSC. If you do have questions, queries, concerns, we're always available. So please don't leave things until it's too late. Please do use that channel. We also have some testimonials on the CSC website, and we encourage you as well, if you're not quite sure exactly how you might want to approach the programme in terms of your goals or like getting to know one another, do have a look at the testimonials because it does help give some guidance and direction to that. And then also we've got some FAQs on the website as well. So again, have a look at those, but we're always available if you want to email your queries. And then finally, I'll just go through some key policies for the programme. Everybody within the CSC's community is expected to adhere to the CSC Code of Conduct for both scholars and alumni. This is an open and safe and supportive community, and the mentoring programme is exactly that as well. So please do ensure that you are fully aware of the CSC's Code of Conduct and our expectations around that. As mentioned, this is a confidential pairing. What is shared between pairs is confidential. You are building a trust relationship in order to support each other to meet the goals of the programme. We do expect confidentiality, and you should commit to one another around confidentiality. As mentioned, the only time that we request potentially that you break that is if you need to implement our duty to report policy. That is where you have any serious concerns about the welfare and safety of your mentee or mentor or those around them, and you feel that it has not been raised with the CSC. For mentees, they would raise this with their programme officer or our senior welfare officer. And for mentors, it would be raised with the CSC alumni team. If you are in your pairing and you have serious concerns about someone's welfare, safety, or those around them, and you feel that no one at the CSC is aware of it, then please do use the duty to report policy. The CSC also has a safeguarding policy, and again, this is reiterated in our Code of Conducts, but please also be aware of the safeguarding policy. As mentioned, this is a safe community, and we expect all of those who are participating in it to ensure that it continues to be a safe community and space for everybody in it. And again, if you feel that that is not the case, please do ensure that you follow the information in the CSC safeguarding policy. For our mentees, whilst you're on award, there is information around wellbeing and support that is available to you in the UK. So mentors, you may want to familiarise yourself with that information so that you can provide it to your mentees if you feel that they're needing a little bit of support that is outside of your remit on the programme. But there are sort of UK-based organisations, particularly for student welfare, that can provide guidance in those instances. And for mentors, if you feel that you are struggling to participate in the programme for any reason, again, please get in touch with us and talk to us about it, because we're here to support you. And sometimes it's about facilitating a bit of a timeout, and there's absolutely no problem with asking for that support to ensure that your well-being is being preserved. And then finally, just a note there around termination of pairings. We do sometimes have to terminate pairs. It's very rarely because there is an issue with the pairing. I just want to note that that is very rare that would be the case. It's often that things come up outside of the programme that mean individuals can't commit in the way that we both need them to get the most out of the programme, but also in a way that is fair to the mentee or the mentor. And that's typically the reason why we have to terminate pairings. It's also why we are asking that everybody makes contact between their mentee and mentor by the 7th of December. So if you're sat here thinking, I need to reply to my mentor, please do it immediately after this. And if you are a mentor and you're thinking, I've still not emailed my mentee, again, please do it immediately, because we do monitor that progress, because it's really important. And if you don't establish contact, we may have to terminate the pairing. And that means that because of a lack of communication on someone's part, someone else is unable to participate in the programme. So please be fair to one another as well. So a final plea to keep in touch with us. You can always contact the team at alumni@cscuk.org.uk, and Eva will be your contact throughout. That brings us to the end of the session. So we're going to move to the Q&A. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and then I will turn the recording off. And from there, we'll also be able to commence the Q&A.